Elon is out there basically shitposting on X about OpenAI's announcement, saying SoftBank doesn't have the money.
$500 billion you just cannot take seriously. SoftBank has $38 billion in cash, $142 billion in debt. Isn't this the full arrival of the grift economy?
Stargate coin, done.
Oh, Sam, that's a great idea.
Why wouldn't Elon, as Trump's number one confidant, not just block this from... Because Trump just wants the marketing of it?
Anyone getting excited about spending money, not making money, has ended poorly. One of my number one rules of seed investing is that the second SoftBank buys, you must sell.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome to another week of More or Less.
Hey, Jess.
Nothing has happened this week. There's been no news, no headlines, no push alerts.
Boring.
All news is no news. So in a sense, there was no news.
Yeah, it's actually a good point, Sam.
That's the whole point, is like you flood the zone to the point that there is no actual news because it is all the news.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, there was a lot of news this week. I'm sure many of you, like us in the Lesson household, were watching the inauguration and noticed that behind President Trump's family was not his cabinet members or, people who have served in his administrations in the past, but the CEO of every major large tech company, except Microsoft, which we could circle back to. Bezos, Zuckerberg, Pichai, Elon. What was your reaction to that? Did you guys have a reaction to that?
Lauren Sanchez. Whew, stole the show.
Damn.
David and I were just texting about it, actually.
At least someone said it.
Lauren wore a provocative outfit, yes.
Lauren crushed it.
Oh, God. So inappropriate.
Oh, please. It's 2025. That's what you think is inappropriate?
Where was Satya? Was Satya there? I didn't see him.
Yeah, he was there.
Britt, I'm so glad you asked. This is why they pay me the big bucks. Satya Nadella was not there.
Thank you, Dave.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I thought you meant Sundar.
CEO of Microsoft. Word on the street was that, he was at Davos, but yes. And obviously Microsoft has met many times with the Trump administration, but my opinion here, I think Microsoft's looking down the road, and not that they're going to want to distance themselves from Trump per se, but guys, Silicon Valley's gotten political. They've gotten real political.
You know what, though? I think that America needs less of our bridges and tunnels running, but with the blue screen of death. And that we might do well to get off of Microsoft systems.
I'm like, where is Dave taking this? I'm like,
I know. How many analogies were just said in one sentence?
Microsoft is up more today as a percentage from stock than any of these companies. So maybe I think people might be selling Tesla because of the salute and buying Microsoft because Satya didn't show up.
It's always terrified me that critical American infrastructure systems might be running on Microsoft Windows. Like, that's always been a terrifying...
What do you want them running on? Chrome?
Okay, so less of that, but yeah. But I don't know, guys. I mean, the broader, and I know some of you have opinions on this, and I don't think we need to spend every second of the next year talking about Silicon Valley and Washington, but
we might
actually have to spend a lot of time because a lot's happening. And all of a sudden, I mean, Trump likes successful, powerful people. He lined them all up for the cameras, behind Jared and Ivanka. What are we to reflect on this moment?
Other than Tim Cook. Tim Cook wasn't in that lineup. He was somewhere else. He wasn't in that lineup.
He was close. He was close,
but not... I was wondering if that was a political move, too.
He wasn't in that camera shot, but he was like 2 heads away.
So can I make two quick comments on this? One, I do have one person I was very surprised to not see in that row.
Yes.
Aaron Levy. You'd think he'd end up there. You don't know why, but you just expect to see Aaron Levy in that row. Second point.
Aaron, we really love you, and we're sorry for that dig. I mean, at least overflow. I think he would have been in the overflow.
No, Aaron would have definitely. You don't know why, but he's there. But my serious comment is, look, it's very simple. You're Trump, and you're a TV star. You understand camera angles. You understand positioning. Da, da, da. It's very simple. You want all these people standing behind you so that when shit hits the fan and people start posting images around, there's Trump and all the people standing behind him in a bunch of images. Like, it's all just for the shot. No one cares who the cabinet is. He's going to fire the cabinet like 18 times in the next 4 years, right?
So, Sam, I think that's why Trump does it. What if anything does it mean for Silicon Valley?
That they're in that picture and they're
but they all showed up.
They're not going to show up. Of course they're going to show up.
Yeah, I think this is like America. What does it mean for Silicon Valley, Jess? I just think we've said this several times on the pod, but it's kind of a natural evolution, right? The Silicon Valley companies are the most valuable companies in the world. They're American companies. That they're there makes sense, right? Whether it's Democrat or Republican, right? Like, these are the best companies in the world.
No, I agree.
And this is why you gotta say, God bless Lauren Sanchez, because she understands this, right? And like, she just like did a hilarious, like, over the top move on the entire image that Trump was trying. It was great, right? Like, so I think when you look at like the meta analysis of the whole thing, Trump is staging images for the future of press so that forever there's a bunch of Silicon Valley people and powerful people who literally stood behind him at the inauguration, and there's 1,000 pictures of it. And like, that's great PR, like Riefenstahl 101. And like, then you got Lauren Sanchez going over the top in lingerie. She looked great, and she just messed up his images.
I don't know. I don't think he would say that she messed them up.
She's a TV person, right? She's a TV personality. So did she know to do this?
Yeah, so she gets it.
No, I think she just trolled him. Like, this is clearly, she likes attention. She's had like Vogue shoots and covers and things. And she knew Melania and Ivanka and everyone would be like very classy. It's like the inauguration. They'd be nicely dressed.
They all look great, by the way.
Right. And like, by the way, we've apparently reverted to the UK where we wear headpieces at fancy gatherings, I assume. And then she's like, well, I know I'm going to be photographed. I'm going to be right behind Trump. So I'm just going to go really crazy and troll Trump by wearing lingerie. And then everyone will actually talk about me.
You guys really think this was that intentional?
Yes, of course it was. These are very sophisticated media people. Like,
right.
Each of these people have stylists, Dave. They think about their outfits for like weeks in advance.
I love it. I think it's great. I think the winner of the entire thing is Lauren Sanchez.
I mean, I'm with you, Sam.
Because Lauren Sanchez has just written herself into like American history, right? Like,
so I'm going to move on from this topic shortly, but I also just think this is Lauren's style. It is consistent with her awesome, hot looking style. So I think it's a strategy in the biggest sense. I'm not sure how much of a strategy in the micro sense it were. My experience, people like, they actually pick their outfits 2 days before because this is all very last minute. But
I'm with you, Jess. I just think this was not as intentional as y'all are making it out to be.
No, but I think Sam's right in the macro sense. Like, I'll spare you all a conversation about feminine energy at the moment, but like, every public figure has their own type of brand and energy, and Lauren was authentically herself, even in the hallowed grounds.
Look, if I were invited, I would have worn a sleeping bag,
There you go. Which, true story, Sam has worn to a Sundance VIP party before.
I don't know, Sam. You've spruced up your look the last couple of weeks. You're wearing some kind of a sport coat thing.
I know. What's with the jackets?
Yes. Well, I have a lot of these.
It's like an athletic sport coat.
It's exactly what it is.
It's exactly what it is, Dave. That you couldn't hit the nail on the head.
It's the only item of clothing Nick Josefowitz has ever liked that I've worn. He went and bought it.
Wow.
Very proud.
It's true.
Bringing the British man into the American style.
We had this moment. We had a very visible symbol of the new tech U.S. government alliance, which will undoubtedly go through many twists and turns. And we've already seen fissures as of 48 hours later. And then we've had a couple of major policy moves from Trump, all of which pretty much expected, but have big implications for the Valley. So let's start with Stargate. Did anyone happen to watch Trump's press conference with Larry Ellison, Masayoshi Son, and Sam Altman, where he called Sam the world's leading expert in AI and Larry Ellison the CEO of everything? Anyone catch it?
I saw the excerpts. I didn't watch the whole thing.
You know, one of the perks of the new information digs in the design district is we have CNBC running all day, thanks to my YouTube TV subscription. And so we actually saw it live. It was so exciting. We all huddled around. It was like a real moment. But for those who missed, OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle announced a $500 billion AI data center infrastructure project called Stargate, a code name first revealed in the information last year. And it was interesting on a couple levels. One, you know, it is tied to the US and Trump's desire to make and maintain the US as leader in AI and the infrastructure benefits that will allegedly come from that. Also, guess who wasn't there? Once again, our friend Satya Nadella.
Or Elon.
Very busy. But of course, OpenAI, Microsoft was OpenAI's exclusive compute provider until this moment. So that there's no news flash there. I mean, the two have been gradually drifting apart as the capital needs have intensified. But for those of us really in the weeds of this industry, it was very notable.
How do you think they came up with 500 billion? Did someone want $1 trillion and someone want 100 billion? Like, this is like a random number.
I think these guys are working together on a data center. This is they're working together on their new data center. And then all of a sudden someone realizes the inauguration's in 2 weeks. And wouldn't it be cool if they could have a press conference talking? Would this be something that would end? So they send an email.
Was this like, you will say 500 billion, and it was like, yes, Mr. President, we will.
Yeah, no, I think so. But let's take the news and then open it up to reactions. But then as Sam said, you know, first thing I did is, of course, I posted on X, Elon, what do you think of Stargate? Obviously, he was going to tell us anyway. It didn't take my tweet to prod him. But he instantly said, because we know Elon in building XAI claims to have the US's largest supercomputer, so on and so forth. And actually was going to partner with Oracle and then decide to go at it alone because he didn't think Oracle could meet some of his energy needs. So this is even more entwined. But Elon is out there basically shit posting on X about OpenAI's announcement, saying SoftBank doesn't have the money, which is kind of true. But there are a lot of other people sitting around the table, like the UAE and so on and so forth. So you tech people, hear about this Stargate announcement, and what do you think?
I think that no one seems to remember the plot of the movie Stargate. Stargate was very dangerous. Like, the aliens came through and tried to kill everyone. It's like what? Like, I know it's a 30-year-old movie, but and maybe these kids haven't watched it, but I feel like someone should kind of rewatch it. It's a cool name, just like you don't like the plot.
Great point, Sam.
But why wouldn't Elon, as Trump's number one confidant, not just block this from? Because Trump just wants the marketing of it?
Isn't this just the full arrival of the grift economy, right? The Elon style marketing where, I mean, $500 billion you just cannot take seriously, right? SoftBank has 38 billion in cash, 142 billion in debt, generates 3 billion in free cash flow.
Stargate coin. Done.
Oh, Sam, that's a great idea.
Like SoftBank, they own 143 billion in ARM, 18 billion in Alibaba. If they start selling any of that, it'll all drop. The price will drop, right? Oracle only has 11 billion in cash and 88 billion in debt.
Well, Larry Ellison has like 500 billion in cash hidden away somewhere. Look, here's the thing though.
But like, Sam, OpenAI is burning cash. MGX is $100 billion fund. Like, where is this money coming from?
Look, two things I'd say. One, in general, the history of anyone getting excited about spending money, not making money, has ended poorly, right? So whenever there's announcements, congratulations, we figure out how to spend money, that's usually bad sign. Second, I have now co-invested or like seeded quite a few deals that SoftBank has then invested in. One of my number one rules of seed investing is that the second SoftBank buys, you must sell. I've learned this the hard way several times.
Yeah, fair. We've learned that hard way together.
Probably the worst investors in history. We've lost so much money in valuable companies because of SoftBank. So when you put those two things together, again, it's great popcorn stuff. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a great time in the pool house. But I think it's pretty hard to take any of this stuff too seriously.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, I don't know for how, but the price tag, guys, remember when Sam Altman was going to raise, I want to say $7 trillion, but I can't even believe that now.
Yeah.
I wish they had announced 7 trillion. Why didn't they announce $7 trillion?
But isn't this the beginning of that? Isn't that the actual story here, Jess?
I don't think this is the beginning. I think this is it. I mean,
no, that's what I'm saying. Is this the story that he went out to raise 7 and only came out with 500 billion, which is still not true?
Pretty much, but I also think it's a pivot from an outside of the US to an inside of the US. Like the other thing, you are Sam Altman and you look at his response, the back and forth with Elon on X about Stargate, and Sam says something like, I hope you do the right thing, even when it doesn't interest your company's American flag, right? OpenAI is scared shitless of what Elon's going to do to make their life harder, let alone like in DC, while he's already making it harder in a California court, trying to block their conversion. OpenAI needed that Trump moment, right? They also put a policy paper out recently on regulation, right? Like everyone is circling. And I think everyone's smart too, because Trump is going to anoint or pick or react to who's ever messaging or plot at that moment he's most excited about.
Trump's just going to do it all. He's going to do it all. He's going to bury more with more.
Is that the missing detail here? I mean, is the other 400 billion that is not accounted for going to come from America? Like, can Trump do that? Like, he can't allocate that level of capital.
I don't think he can allocate that. No.
No, Dave, you forget that OpenAI is a nonprofit, so he'll get a tax write-off for it.
Also, guys, imagine Elon being like, Doge, I'm going to slash the federal budget and I'm going to build myself a Stargate. Like,
and then the aliens will pour out of the Stargate and try to kill us all, right? Like, that's going to be like great.
But Jess, you were confirming. See, I knew it. OpenAI needs some chips in the game. And this is why they're making this play.
I think, look, can we just enjoy it? It's just silly. It's fun.
I'm kind of enjoying it, guys. I think like...
I guess that's why I'm not taking any of this seriously. We've become fully, WWF, UFC politics. Like none of it is real. It's all heels and faces and storytelling. And the underlying realness is super unclear right now.
Okay, so I don't necessarily disagree, Dave, but like, what was interesting as a listener of the press release is that Larry and Sam decided to talk about cancer and how, so like they clearly got the message.
Everyone hates cancer.
Like we need a practical implication to talking about H100s or whatever level of, GPUs are.
The explanation was really kind of ridiculous.
And also there are blood tests that can detect cancer, which I think Grail.
Yeah, Grail's great at it.
It's great.
But it is not what Larry Ellison described.
No, and it doesn't appear to be what Larry Ellison described. But I love like the comms person who's like, we need real world examples. But to be clear, like the technology is marching ahead. I know we have many AI skeptics on this front, but like...
No, I think it's super real for healthcare. I was at Stanford last week having lunch with some people. And like, if there's one place where like, it's kind of like, if you want to get something killed in the world, all you have to do is say that it's child porn. And if you want to get something to happen in the world, all you have to do is say that it's healthcare. And it turns out that like the AI applications for healthcare are super practical up and down the line. It's no question. Like everything from making doctors' jobs better so we can recruit people, which is pretty basic, like, type stuff, all the way through to like detecting cancer is great. Like, sure, do more of that stuff.
Yeah, so we can't be like totally laughing at these data centers because they are a necessary ingredient.
Well, it depends what they're actually using them for. If it's like to, better answer social media questions and make, AI-driven characters that collect OnlyFans fees as digital characters, which, by the way, is also super cool, then we can laugh at them.
Okay, but you would invest in that, so you wouldn't laugh at them.
There is another thread going on here, just to your point, which is that OpenAI with the how do you say it, 03? I actually don't even know, 03 model.
Yeah, what was formerly known as Strawberry until we ruined the code name for them, so they changed it.
And then Anthropic, the CEO of Anthropic has been doing some interviews in the last week, and these guys are starting to put timelines on what they think AGI-ish stuff looks like, and they seem pretty confident about it.
Just like Elon and self-driving cars, like people just want, it's just noise. Like people just like timelines.
I don't know, Sam. The Anthropic guys have not been as hyperbolic, right? Like they've tried to be reasonable.
Yeah, and as a result, their market cap is half of OpenAI's. If they were more hyperbolic, they'd have a higher market cap.
I'm just saying this is an underlying thread.
I think that's a great underlying thread. And we just put out a story about basically what we think is OpenAI's most significant new product launch coming, which is the next gen of a coding assistant. And the reason it's significant is because internally they see this in their own framework as a big step towards AGI. So that is definitely something to look out for.
Like that to me, Jess, is the domain that we're going to see the first glints of this, right?
And I just wish the companies could like anchor in the products and not these like big terms. I mean, we had this big debate about whether to use AGI in a headline, and I caved on this one because I didn't have the energy to think of something better, but I probably shouldn't have caved. We also, by the way, are about to publish, but it'll be out by the time of the podcast, our results for our survey. We surveyed our subscribers on what OpenAI would be worth in 10 years, 15 years, and so on. And I will get the exact numbers when I dig into our CMS. But the point being,
I still go 0.
it was very bifurcated.
Yeah, well, that's not surprising. It's either that's the whole bet by every venture capitalist in the world is like it's clearly not worth medium. It's either worth 0 or like infinity. And the average of 0 and infinity does actually happen to be infinity, which is the entire investment memo of half of the people that have invested in it, right? Is like it's a very simple investment memo. I get it. I think it's like, again, I worry about, to Dave's point, and I've made this point as well. It's like the thing I'm very confident is we're currently in a meme economy. I wrote a post on X about this before. Everything is about memeability, right? And AGI, AI is highly memeable, right? As is Mars, as is, self-driving. And, I think you can kind of go down the chain. It's like, I would actually argue even down to like profit. This is the point I was trying to make on X, is like, even the idea of profit and its value is a meme in the way we're thinking about it in 2025. So it's just about memeability and asymmetry is what I'd say.
Another interesting stat. So these surveys go out to information readers. So these are people who are pretty techy. Readers are optimistic that OpenAI will say they have achieved artificial general intelligence in within 3 years. Say.
Oh, they'll definitely say it.
The way the question was written initially was "will have," and I was like, "There's no way people can assess that. We have to rephrase the question."
Of course, they'll say that.
Yeah, I've been playing with Polymarket a little bit recently, and
32%. You rogue, illegally using Polymarket.
No, you don't use it.
Not betting. I'm just
look at it.
I'm just looking at it. 32% of people say OpenAI will announce it has achieved AGI in 2025. By the way, one of the more interesting bets on Polymarket.
Haven't they already announced that? I mean, you've got.
But in 2025, this year, no.
There are people on the board of OpenAI that are claiming that O3 is AGI.
Well, but to be clear, the interesting thing about Polymarket, and correct me if I'm wrong, isn't the way Polymarket does the Oracle. Basically, people vote on whether it happened or not, and there's like a slashing function if you vote against everyone else. So what you're really betting on Polymarket in that case is whether most people who are staking on Polymarket will assert that to be true, not necessarily whether it's actually true.
Good point.
Okay.
Any other Stargate things? And we got to go we got to go back to TikTok because wow, what a hilarious.
I just don't think any of this stuff matters. I think it's just kind of all.
Also, a lot of bets on TikTok on Polymarket, by the way. Mr. Beast only has a 16% chance, according to the people.
Oh, I would short that. There's a 0% chance.
Well, now that my panelists have refused to talk about all my moderation topics, the natural thing to do would be to turn it over to the men. So, gentlemen, what is moving you in the moment? You don't want to talk about TikTok. You don't want to.
We can talk TikTok, but I think that it's reasonable. I think Sam's point's pretty reasonable that it is just like the UFC economy. Like none of it it's all fake.
Sam, can I ask you how the news industry should adapt to the meme economy? Because I think that's a great, I think it's a great observation. I'm wondering what it means for my business, if you've got any thoughts.
I just think that I think you have to start thinking about value, and like what people ascribe value to is extremely like community driven. So if you think about the world of last century, the basic story was the world of like American capitalism post World War II, just having a single model for the universe, right? Like, which was what a company's value was. It was this discounted cash flow. We talked to everyone about what that meant and why you'd invest and what profits were. We basically had like a universal narrative on value. And for better or worse, as basically the internet has allowed communities and factions to form, all of a sudden people are very in tune with the fact, which is like it's supply and demand driven. Value is what people ascribe value to be. And the global meme of profits are valuable, or profits demonstrate corporate health because of their ability to demonstrate profits, right? And there's like the circular logic to why it's still it's a very powerful cult. It's not going away. It's a very powerful meme. It's a global meme. So it's important. But I think when you look at a lot of things and what people ascribe value to, you do just have to have like a broader lens on how people think about value and then why people buy and sell things. And so when you think about how to cover these things as an investor or from the news perspective, I just think in some ways I'd say you have to stop being quite so snooty, right? About like the old 20th century version of how we think about value, and think about it as like, look, finance is just following the curve of communities. And in some ways, like investing, yes, it's important, is like thinking about what communities can you get in front of or involved in or help foster, which have an enormous amount of upside. They can get really big. They can be really powerful and sticky to the people who care about them, right? And it's just a different framework that I think is really worth following. It's certainly how I'm thinking about investing these days. And, you know, obviously we've done a lot in crypto. We do a lot in creators, which are very much community driven. But there's something even deeper going on here that goes way beyond people being snobs about GameStop.
Dave, what do you think about that? And where do your thoughts about potential new community products and the consumer internet stand?
I guess the question around meme ability, I mean, it's, Sam, I'm trying to unpack and simplify a little bit here. You know, like market economies are market economies, right? Like you've got supply and demand on each side. I think you're right that more like memetics are more the, you know, thing of the day, but it embedded inside of that, I think it's maybe even simpler, right? Like fear drives a lot of memes, right? And so like what are profits but a way to reduce fear, right? Like, and so a lot of memetics are emotional, you know, things being turned into emotional symbology that moves through the internet. You know, COVID was an incredible memetic, right? Like there's you know, a lot of this going on.
Look, I just think, like, let's put it this way: we can all be, you know, one of the things that did happen this week, which was kind of wild, was like this Trump token, right? And like, it was a really interesting. If you step back, you can be as cynical as you want about this, whatever. I understand all the like, this is this guy, I get it. But if you just step back for a second, like, what happened here, right? There's this like moment, a meme. You have a creator, Trump in this case, like putting out a meme. You have a bunch of, you know, 20 something boys probably, right, sitting on dexes in crypto exchanges, and they're like, it gets momentum, right, as like a thing. And why? It's like, well, these kids are not going to earn their way to the good life, right? Everything's about asymmetry. This is like a really interesting, fast moving community. It grows super fast, right? And the numbers get ridiculous and huge, and people are like, wow, what is this fast burning? Now the real question for value as an investor versus a trader is there staying power to that community and meme? And what happened, interesting, was this Melania token launched and the Barron token launched. People launched all this stuff, and it crushed the value of the Trump token, because all of a sudden it went from being like, ooh, this is like an interesting community that's forming of supply and demand, and there's going to be like a stickiness to this, and it actually can become very big, to be like, ooh, no, it can't, right? This is just content, right? And the second it's content, it's not a community, it's less sticky, it has less upside, it has less power to pull people in. And so I think you just have to, I can be as cynical as the next person, even more so, you know, about the health of things. So take like a AI as like investable asset, like the base models, incredible meme ability, right? OpenAI has built a great cult around itself. It's awesome from that perspective. I do think that the gravity of the financial meme, right, and effectively financial thinking will ultimately break that, right? I don't think that it can survive as a narrative, just the sheer financial reality of what they're taking on, right, over the long term. But again, it's a great story, and so I just think it's like one of those things where you have to start looking at like equities and in things you invest in as communities.
Is there a price of the Trump coin where you would buy?
Personally,
It's at 38 right now.
I never considered it for what it's worth because I don't consider myself as a snob.
It's worth asking why, though, Sam. Like, I think that's like very interesting.
No, I'll tell you why.
Because I didn't consider it either.
No, but I'll tell you, it's actually like a mental health thing for me. It's not that I'm like it's in a snobbery thing, which is I consider myself an investor, not a trader. And I don't want to be a trader because I don't want to live in a 24-hour cycle of like being anxious about my trades. It's like the same reason I don't generally use leverage in the public markets. I just don't want that emotional stress in my life. So I don't think it would be unreasonable at all to have bought Trump coin when it started moving, right? But in my head, at least, I just don't like, I try not to buy things that are going to be short-term capital gains because it's too stressful for me. I just don't like it.
So the point I was trying to get at or unpack earlier was, what were people actually buying with the Trump coin?
They were buying the thing that people would buy it more in the future.
Well, no, but Sam, to use these two things, I don't think traders and the people, you know, that are out there that you're describing doing this think about that. I think they think about optimism or fear, right? And I think the two cases that you've presented actually illustrate this very clearly, right? The Trump coin was clearly an optimism meme buy. People optimistic about Monday, about where Trump was going to go. Maybe there was a bunch of other things in there that we could unpack. Maybe it was grift from international nations, like trying to influence Trump. You could get into all kinds of conspiracy theories, but I think, yeah, at the most basic level, it's an optimism. Like, optimism drove that curve. On the AI side, Jess, I think you've actually been quite articulate about Sam Altman and OpenAI's ability to meme fear, right? And my bet is that part of what drove the Stargate announcement was a bunch of fear memeing inside the White House, where, you know, you've got Sam Altman and Larry Ellison and these people saying, we cannot lose to China. If AGI is going to happen, it must happen here. Like, that's a fear meme, right? That's using fear as a meme to get something done. And so, thus far, OpenAI has been incredibly effective at using fear as a meme to drive market cap.
They
right?
do both, Dave. So what they do is even one notch more sophisticated, which is they use the fear to drive, and then they sweep in as the reasonable one, attempting to downplay rumors they started. So if you look at what happened with the news cycle, like a week or so ago, 2 weeks, I've lost track of time, Sam Altman wrote a manifesto about AGI being around the corner. Axios wrote that he was holding a briefing at the White House about progress they were making. You know, speculation sort of runs wild, but again, there would have been no speculation had there not been the manifesto. And then Altman comes in on X, ever the reasonable one, being like, guys, it's cool, but not that cool. Right.
Yeah, and it's funny because
like he's playing both sides of it.
Totally, and Elon does it the opposite way, right? And Sam, you've rightly pointed this out a lot over the years, which is Elon tends to use the optimism memes, right? He'll say, like, we're going to Mars, or we're going to build this Cybertruck, or we're going to build this Roadster, or we're going to do this thing, and you should be optimistic about the future. And then, you know, comes in and tempers it the other direction, right? And in both cases, I understand this is like kind of drawing a dichotomy between these two things, but I think you can kind of look at a lot what's going on with this meme economy through this lens, is what are you embedding into the meme?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think actually Sam Altman's great innovation was fear marketing around. I 100% agree with that. And he's done a brilliant job if you just think about him as a marketer, right? From using that narrative to his advantage. Yeah, it's interesting because it's in some ways I do feel like people talk a lot about how things start behaving in like post-scarcity environments. Right.
What do you mean by post-scarcity?
Well, once your daily needs are met for housing and food, and you're not going to die tomorrow, like stuff starts to get weird, right? Like you know, all of a sudden it doesn't actually matter, right? If like the crops are harvested or not. It doesn't matter to it matters for most of the world. It doesn't matter to the people who are like deeply enmeshed in these stories. They're post scarcity, and so they end up start trading all these like memes and stories, right, in like various ways that are like very untethered from reality. This should end very badly, to be clear, but like it might not.
Well, Sam, so just to push on that, and actually something I was going to bring up in this context, which is there's this underlying question, which is what is driving this trading behavior, right, at the retail level? And I think that there's something really sad actually going on, which is that people that haven't satisfied those needs, right, are largely giving up on the economy. The economy seems very random to them, right? They sort of have tried to put in good work. They've tried to do the American dream. They've tried to buy a house. They've tried to like do well, working for the company or even maybe starting their own small business. And none of it is working. And they see their friends trading in either meme stocks, to your point, like GameStop or, the Trump coin, and sometimes getting lucky. And to your point also, really damaging their mental health, but they're like getting ahead, right? And so people are buying into the narrative now that if they do this style of trading, it's a better way to achieve the American dream. And I think that's actually the scary thing, and that the other people you're referencing are taking advantage of that.
So I mostly agree with you, right? I think that's thematically correct, and I've said this a bunch. That I think the reality is, if you have $1,000 of savings, you're never going to compound your way to the American dream. You can't possibly earn it. So like, it's actually quite rational to do these like extremely asymmetric bets. But Dave, to try to class it up a bit, because I think you're basically right, which is these are like bets of desperation. I'd also point out that being an entrepreneur is net present value, like expected value negative, right? Like you will probably be poorer, right, as an entrepreneur on average. Now, so you have to believe in, I'd say that angel investing works this way. You mostly lose money. But the reality is as the technology gets more powerful in the world and the asymmetry gets greater, you do have to like, and basically you basically get this positive skew in how big things can get, how quickly, where all of a sudden making a series of like effectively like bet it all or bet something on like outside outcomes isn't as crazy as it might sound, right? Again, we talked before about the average of infinity and zero is infinity. And I look at my own investing behavior, right, as a venture capitalist, and as I like to point out, because I feel like you have to lick the cookie, I've done well, right? It's like the asymmetry is unbelievable, right? Like, I was sadly, because we distributed it too early, it turns out, like looking, it's like, the $400,000 we put into Solana, I think is right now worth 2.2 billion, right? Like, and like we distributed well, but not that well, right? And so like asymmetry rules everything, right? So I just don't like. Now you can make the argument that like there's a spectrum between you're betting on the asymmetry of a narrative everyone believes about profitability and the health of company. We all get that. Like that's been the 20th century thing. There's a difference between that and crypto. There's a difference between crypto and meme coins. Like there's like a spectrum of like effectively external value created through these things, and we can get all up in, but on a micro level, person by person, I just don't think it's that irrational.
Oh, it's certainly not.
Britt, what's your reaction to all of this and from your observation of like social media and what's happening?
It reminds me of the GameStop movie, right? I mean, I feel like that movie paints a picture really clearly.
Written by my dear friends, Lauren and Rebecca.
Yeah. And I agree with a lot of the points being said. When Trump launched the meme coin, my first thought was like, did they all get really drunk at the crypto ball? And this was just like a rash decision? Because I think a lot of people have already lost money and will continue to lose money. And these are people in his base that, to Sam's point, I think were potentially optimistic that they could make a lot of money getting into crypto, backing Trump. And so who knows? I read one story about a person who did do a trade and made $100 million in the first like 24 hours. So like there are success stories.
I just don't know. Like I'd actually be the story we all tell ourselves is everyone's lost money on this. This is blah, 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 blah. Is that actually true? Like there clearly have been things like clearly like you have the Hawk situation, whatever, people got rugged. That's like a thing. By the way, I believe lots of people have lost like random small amounts of money on random shit. But like the crypto markets are ripping, right? And like if you'd held,
I'm talking about the Trump coin in particular.
but the Trump coin is still up. I mean, it's like
it depends when you invested and how much you invested, but it's definitely fallen from where it was. Like some people definitely lost money so far.
100%. But the question, like, we kind of like sometimes everyone in polite society, what you're supposed to say is like, of course, everyone's losing money on this. This is NP. Like, I get it. I'm not actually sure how true it is.
My point, though, is that I would bet, and I don't have the data because it's like blockchain, but there are a lot of people that bought Trump coins that are newer to crypto who didn't know what they were really investing in, but like Trump or whatever. And then if you, again, follow the GameStop theory, like are maybe risk averse to sell and don't understand how crypto trades. So volatile, like there's so much volatility and like, I don't know. I don't know the data. It's an intuition.
I get the story. I'm just saying, like, in the Trump case, like I'm looking at the thing right now. It's like, it's gone from like 0, obviously. It's at 37 now. It peaked at like 65.
Peaked at 74. It's down 50%.
Yeah, but like things are super volatile. Like Tesla stock was down 50% over the last year at one point. Like
it continues to go down. It's like down 15% in one day. Like, and people are like, like in GameStop, similar thing. Like, but it might come back tomorrow, and then they're waiting another week or 2 weeks.
But GameStop did come back.
But I'm just saying, it's more of an intuition thing of like an emotional feeling that there are people out there getting screwed right now because the president launched a Solana coin, and it just feels weird because like they were trusting him and following him. And I don't know, it feels a little icky to me.
I totally understand. And I mostly agree, but to play devil's advocate, right? Everything's super volatile. There's no free trust in the future in the world. It's not clear that Trump coin trades down forever or doesn't go up. There isn't some rug that's happened. And here's the thing. I actually think one of the mistakes that polite society makes, certainly the left, is to kind of have this image that like all these Trump supporters are idiots who don't know what they're doing, right? And like, I think we have to shake ourselves of that, right? Like,
I'm not saying all of them are, but they're definitely, even if 10% are like didn't know what they were doing, that's a lot of people.
You know how many people bought Facebook stock and then sold it at the wrong time? I don't know.
There have always been financial scams. I'm not even saying that crypto is. I mean, crypto is not a financial, but like there have always been services that are prying on people who were desperate to make a buck. That is,
but not from the president. It's like that's the one difference, guys.
Yeah, no, it's freaking weird. No, I absolutely. I mean,
can we talk about the good news here?
Okay, we're gonna wrap with some good news. Bring us back to the good news day.
I just think it's an amazing showcase of Solana and how powerful and efficient and fast Solana is.
I think Sam kind of did the lick the cookie on that. But yeah. Should we keep doing that?
Let's keep licking it. Let's lick it more. Lick more cookies.
Does David like to tag along here?
As I would like to lick the cookie too. As a believer in Solana from the beginning as well, like it's amazing to see Solana performing at the level that it's performing, right? Like this might not be the use case that everybody loves, but the sheer scale and volume of what happened over the weekend is a testament to the technology.
I think Raj said they traded 10% the volume of the NASDAQ.
It's amazing.
And like, I just think this is, again, is a platform for people expressing things in financial units, memes in units, whatever. It's like, that's pretty cool that it exists. It's clearly like an important part of the internet.
And it is going somewhere interesting, right?
Yeah, I just hope we protect some people from the bad actors.
A lot of crypto people have been talking about the fact that the Trump thing is a really bad look. And like, I get it. I think it is in certain ways. But I think if you just step back for a second, right, and just say, look, can you express in units, trusted units, opinions in an open way on the internet? And all of a sudden, like, you have a platform for doing that actually works at scale. That's awesome.
Yeah, and not just opinions, but like the ability to fund things in the real world, to do interesting things that otherwise would be very difficult. Like, I just think this is going in a very interesting direction, right? Like we've sort of marched along from raw crypto tokens to the era of NFTs to now we're in this era of meme coins. There's going to be interesting linearness that happens from here on out. We've been talking about that since the beginning of crypto. But to me, this shows an evolutionary path towards a more fungible financial system where you have liquidity showing up in places that it was very hard for liquidity to show up in before, and enabling things that might not have been possible otherwise. And that to me is really interesting.
Yes. And I think that it is interesting to talk about the history of like how this stuff has actually evolved in the popular consciousness. Because all these things have been existed forever, like in some form, but is like NFTs were exactly wrong, right?
Well, but they were exactly right for that point in evolution.
No, they weren't. No, I actually think there was just a total head fake.
They had to happen, Sam.
I don't think that had to happen. I think it was a head fake because people didn't thought that there was they were trying to create digital scarcity, which was always a fool's errand, right? Because the whole point of digital is that it's not scarce.
Well, Bitcoin is digitally scarce.
Aren't you like making the case against Bitcoin right now?
Yeah.
No.
Look at me. I know what you're talking about.
Good job, Jess.
So I'm always because the idea that like a single, like I give a shit about a single NFT that was unique and one of one never made sense from a community standpoint. What does make sense is Bitcoin. What does make sense is memes that you can buy into collectively because it's a community thing, and trying to make it unitary and like as though a single thing of it has scarcity value never made any sense to me like a collectible. So I think it's like actually we're on the right track now. In terms of where the world goes in a very positive way.
Okay, Dave, I'm going to give you a word and then I'm going to wrap because we've been bending our listeners' ear for some time.
Well, I just think the counter argument to that is when you start connecting things like, Solana tokens to real world assets like real estate, right? Like suddenly you've got a scarce digital asset that's tradable, that's connected to something that's scarce, right?
But Dave, as the person who started the Montana Landau and bought a great piece of land and tokenized it, my experience that has actually
got to lick the cookie. I guess I'll just say, as the first investor in the Montana Landau,
licking all the cookies, I'll just tell you, and thank you for the investment.
As the creator of the world that made Montana. No.
Yeah. We watch the men lick their cookies.
Yeah.
But look, I actually think I love the dream of liquid tokens on asset. I mean, it's an awesome dream, but it's actually not 100% clear to me as much as I love that intellectually and in like the common framework, if that's actually where we're going versus a lot of this stuff end up being like just community meme driven as opposed to real world. I want it to be real world assets because like I went to Harvard and I think I'm an adult and serious person, but like it's not clear that's actually where we're going.
Why did you have to put in the Harvard line?
Well, it's just because like I'm like a trad husband.
I went to the University of Texas. I think
I'm like an East Coast trad person who like believes in markets.
Can someone please explain this whole trad thing to me? Because can we like do this as pop culture?
No, we have to do a whole separate episode. Yeah, PCC, another moment. But Dave, what I think is, and this is only orthogonally related, but like obviously crypto is a complicated industry with some really exciting things happening and a bunch of shit happening. And what's so funny to me, and you see something like Trump coin, and I'm sure this is true of you all, but like my phone lights up for my non-tech people just being like, this is the end of the world. Or, I have a couple friends.
That's the powerful meme.
Who shall not be named, who are just like, how does it feel to be run today by the tech oligarchs in society? Like, this moment, like there's our view, which is like trying to be reasonable people within the industry somewhat, myself excluded. And then you have like, but it's one back to the row behind Trump. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch perceptions of this from all other corners of the country and world. And I need a mode on my phone, which is just like, don't send me the shit. Like, I'm just trying to do my job as like a decent reporter. Like, I don't need your memes,
But the funny part is these are people who made their money in art, which is literally the same thing. It's the same thing. There's no intrinsic value.
No, but it's broad. I mean, it's really broad. It's everyone from like the hedge funders in New York to like the comms people. I mean,
I just find it particularly rich when the art people get all up in arms about the value of crypto.
That's true. That is true. Well,
it's fair.
I just think we need to tell everyone to buckle up because we are still in January. Like, again, I'm kind of glad that the only thing I like about this iPhone is my notifications are summarized, because the New York Times sends me 10,000 news. I was just like, another executive order, another about Lauren Sanchez. No, just kidding. They were fixated on her of the entire live stream on the website. I just got to say.
You know why? Because OnlyFans worked. It's like New York Times finally had an OnlyFans moment, and they're not going to blow it.
Okay, I'm sorry. As a woman, I don't think she's that hot. I'm just saying.
Britt, where the fuck are you going with this? How does this benefit anyone?
I just wanted to throw in my opinion. Sam said she looked great.
Let's leave our commentary to public image decisions and perceptions.
It's very simple. There's one thing that's hot to all men: confidence.
Boobs.
Confidence. And that is a confident woman, right? That's what it comes down to.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with what she looks like. It's just
Britt, you're a confident woman. You're hot.
So
okay.
I'm super hot. Okay. And my turtleneck right here today.
It is so cold. Have we talked about that? I want to thank our listeners. I also have a plea. Clearly, we need some topics to discuss, because if you don't want to hear about AI, Sam Altman, and TikTok every week, we welcome your ideas. I've got a few in the hopper. We've got some great guests coming, but yeah, let us know what else you're chewing on.
And let us know what your favorite cookie to lick is.
Maybe I'll get these compatriots to actually answer my questions in the future. So a big thank you to everyone. Be well, stay sane. Goodbye.
See you later.
Bye, guys.
If you enjoyed this show, please leave us a virtual high five by rating it and reviewing it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Find more information about each episode in the show notes, and follow us on social media by searching for @MoreOrLess, @DaveMorin, @Lesson, @JLesson, and as for me, I'm @Brit. See you guys next time.